you immediately yet. Maybe that's unrealistic. I don't know.
Congresswoman Claudia Tenney on the phone line. Good morning, Congresswoman. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. Very well.
Good morning.
Good morning. And maybe just want to get your opinion on this. Maybe talk about this. Obviously, this is a hot button issue, but I think yesterday, and correct me if I'm wrong, congressional Republicans tried to make a move to try to diffuse this a bit. I think the Senate, they had one version, and the House, they had another. And the president remains to want to stick to his guns on this one. Thoughts about what's going on?
Well, we actually are looking at a couple of different solutions. The president came to conference yesterday, the Republican conference, and spoke for quite a long time. He doesn't like the way that what ends up looking like what's happening. It appears that some of the families are getting separated. But he also pointed out, we have 30 years of failed immigration. We have 30 years of not securing our border. We have a couple of administrations, not just Obama, but back into the Bush years, where people were actually, well, of course, Obama's administration and Bush and all the administrations in the past have separated families at the border, but never has it been exploited like it is now. But then again, we look at the real facts, and these came out from Kirsten Nielsen, that about 10,000 of the 12,000 children that are being detained are not with parents. The parents have already put these kids with a non-parent or even in some cases a coyote and sent them to the border. And when these young kids are at the border without a parent, and maybe they don't have a parent.
What's a coyote?
A coyote is someone who helps facilitate bringing someone across the border illegally. And so these kinds of, I know it's ridiculous. This is a big-time operation, what's going on to get across our border. And I think the president's right on one side. First of all, he was like, look, we need to secure the border. I think we all agree on that. The problem is the way the optics are looking, the way it's come out. Some of these families are, the kids, it's obviously it's being exploited. It's tragic. No one wants to see a child taken from their parents. But at the same time, the president wants to fix the policy. He was very unhappy about it yesterday, the way it's coming out with the few that are actually parents and children. And the question is, are these people coming across the border? And the ones we're talking about are not coming mostly from Mexico. They're coming from South America. So they've traveled all the way across the Mexican border, the country of Mexico, a couple thousand miles,
sure,
gotten to the border. Are these people actually legitimate asylum seekers? And if they are, let's get them before a court or adjudication of some kind to determine their asylum status as quickly as possible so that we can keep these people together.
So, Claudia, if this has happened in past administrations, so you mentioned this happened in past administrations, and is this because, or why are we seeing this more now? Why is this becoming more of an issue? Why is there more children being detained? Is it because of the zero policy issue?
I think it's because
Zero
right now,
policy?
who knows what the reason why they're coming in. First of all, they know that there's more security at the border. The president put in the zero tolerance. Maybe they're just trying to get it now before an actual immigration bill that is more onerous or something that is more secure that would deter people from wanting to just come across the border illegally.
Mm-hmm.
Look, there are people with legitimate asylum seekers, but there's also a lot of people that aren't. And I can't imagine, honestly, as a mother, sending my child who's a minor up to the border where there's drug trafficking and human traffickers and all kinds of dangers at the border and saying, yeah, here, get my kid across the border or just go across, or unless the kid escaped. I think right there is child neglect on the side of the person that's not caring for their own children.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, still, we need to be very careful and very humane about how we deal with anyone that's coming into this situation. It's not an easy situation with a flood of people coming over. And so I think the president's trying to deal with this. The second bill that the president, they've come out with yesterday that was outlined, there were two bills last week. There's the Goodlatte bill, of which I'm the co-sponsor, and then there was another bill that was being, called amnesty. I don't know if I would call it, maybe it would be called amnesty, but compared to what the new bill is, but it didn't have, the border wall funding. It didn't have, some of the new regulations that are being put in the second bill. So there's what I call Goodlatte 2, which is like a third bill that the president was proposing yesterday, which actually is a little more comprehensive, a little more like the original bill, which deals with chain migration, dealing with DACA, dealing with the wall, dealing with the visa lottery system, and dealing with how we're going to handle, migrant workers and that kind of thing. Unfortunately, the migrant worker issue didn't get to the last bill, which is of importance to our region. But anyway, all the bills apparently are going to, or at least two of the bills are going to come to the floor. So my concern, though, I think that we need to be really understand what's really going on here. This is, people want to come into this country. Some of them are legitimate and some of them aren't. And I think both of your letters, the letters that you read, raise an important issue. I mean, we have to be very humane and careful about what we do at the border, but you have to remember that there are people with bad intentions that are taking advantage of our very loose border
Claudia,
security that we have right now.
Can you help me with this? Maybe I feel somewhat naive about it. How do these people actually get into the country illegally? It seems like they're coming through a port of entry, and I would think that before they even enter the U.S., they would have to have some credentials or some way to get in, and it seems like they're just pouring in these ports of entry. They get into the country, and then they're being told, well, you're here illegally. They want asylum status, and then that takes a long time to decide, so they're put in custody. Why are they even allowed in the first place? Maybe I'm just naive. I don't understand this.
Understand we don't have any kind of deterrent for them. They just walk across the border, and eventually they catch them either on video surveillance or some other form of detection. I mean, many of them just walk across the border. You make it sound like there is this big wall and there's a couple of gates. Like it's not like the Berlin Wall where there's a gate you got to go through. It's an open border, basically, with the security agents all across the border in most places. And actually what the president's proposing and what I support is you cannot put a solid wall across the border. You have to have some kind of deterrent. You can't put a wall where the Rio Grande River is. But it helps border security agents minimize the crossings, the illegal crossings.
Are you saying that people,
some kind of border?
Claudia, are you saying that this, and I've never seen this, excuse me, but are you saying that people just come from Mexico across into Canada or into Texas? They don't. There's no.
You've never seen this, Mark?
They've never. There's no way to stop them. No, I've never been. When I've gone to Canada, before you even get in the country, there's a checkpoint. They stop.
Canada.
They search your credentials. If you don't have what you need, they turn you back.
And Mark, let me
tell
you.
Are you saying in Mexico?
That's because you went to a border crossing. There are places across New York's border that are very similar, Mark. It's like a guy
you could just drive into Canada?
There's a guy at a ticket booth. There's a guy at a ticket booth. Are you sleeping?
These people aren't driving in. They're not driving.
Well, I understand they're not driving, but you're saying that the port of entry has no checkpoint? You just walk in and they get here?
Well, they're not going to a port of entry. They're coming across the border and getting, caught at some point when they're over, when they've crossed over this, line. They're actually, I know this is going to surprise you, but this isn't like, one of those cartoons where there's actually a line that's drawn and you go, oh, here's the U.S. border.
Take your ticket.
They're walking across the border. They're climbing over areas where there are fences. They're coming in. And honestly, there are people that are legitimate asylum seekers. There's not a lot of them. But remember something, a lot of these asylum seekers are coming from South America or Central America, not Mexico. So they've come across when they've come to the California line or the Texas line or down in the border states in the southern tier, they're coming many, many miles across Mexico. It's not like once they cross the line into Mexico, they're in a new country. They should be safe from whatever they're seeking asylum, but they're continuing onward to get into the U.S. And maybe they think they're even safer in the U.S. than Mexico, but the whole thing is just gotten out of hand, and we do need to secure the border. This is a lot of it. Unfortunately, there's a lot of grief, there's a lot of sadness, and a lot of it's being exploited. I'm disappointed that the Democrats are doing this, and they didn't do it before when it was happening under Obama. That famous picture on Facebook, they showed these kids in cages and they said this is what Trump's doing, and it turned out that was under the Obama administration. It was a 2014 photo. Mm-hmm. So the so-called detention centers, I hate the word detention, but Mark, you're a trial lawyer, you do criminal law. If you have a parent that commits a crime, and that's a re-entry, by the way, your first time across the border is not a crime, it's a misdemeanor, but if you continue to come across, it turns into a felony. When you go to court, do you make sure you bring their small children to watch this person get arraigned or tried in court?
No, but Claudia, the difference is, we discussed this a little bit earlier, the difference is when people cross the border illegally, the kids are here illegally as well. If a parent commits a crime, the children have not likely been complicit in that crime. So if a parent goes out and robs a store, that's the example used earlier, the children they haven't done anything wrong. But if the children have come across the border with the parent, they're all here illegally. So they all
Exactly.
have to be
So
treated.
they all
they
are.
all have to go through the same process. You can't say, well, you're 15, so you can come in the